Ray Traylor was never meant to make it in wrestling. Born in 1963, Ray was indeed a former corrections officer from Cobb County, Georgia. He was brought into Jim Crockett Promotions with the sole intention of being an enhancement talent. This was nothing new back in the 80s. You got hired, take a pin from the big stars, and hopefully you'll get brought back for more work. Dusty Rhodes though saw something in Traylor. It's been said that a particular match featuring Ray versus Tully Blanchard caught the eye of the American Dream, who was the head booker in JCP. Ray was a big guy who moved with grace and agility, being able to take bumps that guys his size really shouldn't be able to take. Dusty took Ray Traylor off television and repackaged him as Big Bubba Rogers, bodyguard of Jim Cornette. Dusty and Big Bubba Rogers went on to have big matches in Jim Crockett Promotions, putting Ray on the map, working against the company's top babyface. Dusty had taken enhancement talent and made a big player in a matter of months. It's been revealed also that Jim Cornette always tried to make Ray laugh on TV during their promos, forcing Ray to turn his head away on camera so he wouldn't be caught sniggering. Ray Traylor wrestled for Jim Crockett from 1986 to 1987 and joined the WWF in 1988. But in between he also worked for the Universal Wrestling Federation. The UWF was Oklahoma promoter Bill Watts' attempt to go national and compete with Vince McMahon and Jim Crockett, and as part of that expansion he created the UWF World Heavyweight title. Traylor would be the third holder of the UWF Heavyweight title, beating One Man Gang to capture the belt. The UWF would only last a year and a half, folding up shop in late 1987, but during that time, the promotion had a nationally syndicated TV show, and the UWF belt was at least a semi-legitimate world title. In June 1988, Traylor joined the WWF as the Big Bossman, a character obviously inspired by his previous job as a corrections officer. His initial run in the WWF would last until 1993, where he would work as both a heel and a face. It wasn't until Bossman joined the WWF in 1988 that he gave up his job as a correctional officer. Fearing that the bubble would burst and wrestling wouldn't be a permanent gig for him, Traylor continued to work in prisons right up until his WWF deal was finalised. In his autobiography, Pure Dynamite, the Dynamite Kid Tom Billington recounted the night that the Big Boss Man was set to make his WWF debut. Ray was given orders from Vince McMahon to twirl his nightstick like Bruce Lee would with nunchucks. He practiced for hours and now it was finally time for Big Boss Man to walk out into the arena. Ray lost his grip and the nightstick flew into the crowd. Big Boss Man nearly ruined his chances in WWF before even getting started, at least according to the Dynamite Kid. The Bossman first worked as a bad guy in WWF, managed by Slick. He made his pay-per-view debut at SummerSlam 88, defeating Koko Beware. In those days, when a new super heavyweight heel entered the WWF, you knew it was just a matter of time until he feuded with Hulk Hogan. That time for the Bossman came only a few months after his debut, when he brutally attacked Hogan on the Brother Love show. Bossman was an immediate force in the WWF and would go on to feud on and off with Hogan for several months. Throughout 1989, Bossman would split his time between singles and tag action, regularly teaming with Akeem to form the Twin Towers tag team. As the Twin Towers, Bossman and Akeem feuded mainly with the Mega Powers, a team consisting of Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage. Backstage though, Hulk Hogan would sing the praises of Big Bossman, a definite boost to Ray's stature within the company. After beating the Rockers at WrestleMania 5, Bossman would split his time working in the Towers and also working in singles matches. Mainly the Towers would feud with Demolition, while Bossman reignited a singles feud with his old friend and mentor, Dusty Rhodes. In 1990, the Big Bossman turned face and went on to feud with Ted DiBiase, his old tag partner Akeem, who he defeated at WrestleMania 6 in under 2 minutes, the Barbarian and Mr. Perfect. Something that often goes unnoticed about Bossman though during this time is how much he changed physically. After turning face, Bossman slimmed down considerably and lost a lot of weight. The Big Bossman worked with Jacques Rougeau in 1991. Rougeau was working as the Mountie and the two had a match at SummerSlam that year. Big Bossman defeated him in a jailhouse match. Rougeau said of the match, "It is one of the greatest matches that I've ever had in my career. Ray Traylor, who unfortunately left us, was the kindest person. I had never seen Big Boss Man talk bad to anyone in the dressing room or show lack of respect. He was another Owen Hart. So working with a guy like that for a year to a year and a half around the world was a night off every night, and it was such a pleasure because he would take care of my body, take care of me, and I would take care of him. It was a great time in my career. Bossman would continue to work in the upper mid-card of WWF shows and pay-per-views. Of note is his feud with Nails, who portrayed an ex-convict claiming that the Big Boss Man was an abusive officer while he worked in prisons. The feud culminated at Survivor Series when Big Boss Man defeated Nails in a nightstick on a pole match. This was the final push for the Big Boss Man during his run, as he was subsequently used as enhancement talent against guys like Razor Ramon, Bam Bam Bigelow and Yokozuna at house shows. Bossman left the WWF in 1993 with his last notable match being a loss to Bam Bam Bigelow at the Royal Rumble. Following his departure, he would briefly work in the USWA, Smoky Mountain Wrestling, and he also had a stint in All Japan Wrestling before finding himself in WCW. Making his debut as The Boss in late '93, Traylor came into WCW with a victory over WCW International Champion Rick Rude, leading to an unsuccessful title challenge at Starrcade '93. Traylor was subsequently forced to change his name after WWF had problems with the name The Boss being too similar to the Big Boss Man. Traylor became the Guardian Angel, donning the attire of the unarmed crime prevention patrollers of the Guardian Angels organisation, the idea being that he joined a group of good guy vigilantes that stood for law and order. Traylor was also big, but that look suited the prison guard gimmick. As a Guardian Angel, it just didn't look as good. As expected with all old ex-WWE superstars at the time, Ray would go on to join the NWO. His time in the group was brief though, as he was kicked out of the faction by Eric Bischoff. After switching to his real name and forming an alliance with the Steiners for a forgettable NWO feud, Traylor left WCW in mid-98. In October 1998, the Big Boss Man would make his return to the WWF. This is a rare instance of a star from the early days coming back to have even more success than what he previously did during his first stint. Now a bad guy, decked in SWAT gear that wouldn't look out of place in the Shield, Traylor was immediately established as a top of the mid-card character as he was introduced as a member of Vince McMahon's evil corporation group. In his second WWF run, Bossman would win WWF Gold, something that eluded him during his first run. Saying that, it's likely most people will remember his work against Hulk Hogan in the Golden Era before his heel work in the Attitude Era. While in the corporation, the Big Boss Man won the Tag Team Championship with Ken Shamrock, won the Hardcore Championship 4 times, and also took a loss to The Undertaker at WrestleMania 15 in a Hell in a Cell match. After this match, The Undertaker hanged him from the roof of the cage. There are 2 notable feuds and moments that has to be mentioned here. First is Bossman's feud with Al Snow. Bossman kidnapped and ransomed Al Snow's pet dog, Pepper. This would lead to Bossman arranging a meeting with Al Snow, where he fed Snow a meat dish supposedly made from Pepper's remains. The two settled their feud in a Kennel from Hell match at Unforgiven 99, in which a blue solid steel cage surrounded the ring, and surrounding that was a cell. The object of the match was to escape from the cage and the cell while avoiding attack dogs positioned around the ring. The attack dogs couldn't have been more bored. They done nothing but shit and sniff around ringside. It was definitely more funny than intimidating. The second feud we need to talk about is the Boss Man's work with the Big Show, which led to the Big Boss Man showing up at the funeral of the Big Show's father, and effectively stealing the coffin which contained Big Show Sr.'s corpse. Big Show practically surfed on top of the casket while Bossman drove away with it in tow. It was so ridiculous, but it's one of those Attitude Era moments that's always remembered. The feud ended at Armageddon 99 when Bossman lost a WWF Championship match against the Big Show. Big Show remembers Bossman fondly. When he was asked about the best career advice he had ever received, he said the following: "I think the best advice early on in my career was by the Big Boss Man when I was still in WCW. We were just at a gym talking and he says, 'Remember kid, always be nice to everyone on the way up because you don't see them again on the way down because nothing lasts forever.' And I just thought, you know what, he's right. Why have an arrogant, crappy attitude for a business with a predetermined outcome? So yeah, I've always tried to treat everybody nice. The Bossman continued working for the WWF through 2000 to 2003. He introduced the WWF audience to Bull Buchanan, who became the Bossman's protege. The two would eventually split up, but Bossman was specifically assigned the job of teaching Buchanan the ropes during his WWF debut. The Big Bossman was eventually relegated to WWF B shows such as Sunday Night Heat and Jacked. An injury in 2001 kept him off TV for the whole year. Upon his return in December, he had a short stint being an enforcer for Booker T that brought him back onto the main shows briefly, spending the remainder of his in-ring WWF days on Heat and Jacked, where he worked against the Hurricane, Perry Saturn, Bradshaw and Crash Holly. Bossman had his last WWF match on the May 20th, 2002 edition of Heat, taking a loss to Tommy Dreamer. Traylor was assigned to train developmental wrestlers in Ohio Valley Wrestling before being released from the WWE in 2003. His final match would be against Jim Duggan in the International Wrestling Association of Japan. In a business that's notorious for cutthroat politics and backstabbing, there are only a handful of truly good guys that none of the boys seem to have a bad thing to say about. As mentioned earlier by Jacques Rougeau, Bossman was comparable to Owen Hart in terms that nobody could say a bad thing about him. Everyone only had positive and good things to say about the Big Bossman. A family man who married his childhood sweetheart and had 2 daughters. He even organised public memorial ceremonies for victims of 9/11 in 2001 and 2004. As with many wrestlers, Traylor passed away at a young age. On September 22nd, 2004, he died in his sister's home in Dallas, Georgia. The Big Bossman was only 41 years old at the time of his death. Ray was found dead by his wife. His 2 children had been upstairs playing, while she had briefly left the room and left Ray on the couch. The later investigation into Big Bossman's death determined he had suffered a massive heart attack. At the time of his passing, his daughters were only 8 and 11 years old. Big Bossman was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame in 2016, with his wife and daughters accepting the award on his behalf. Not just a Hall of Fame superstar, it's evident by the recollections of his peers that Ray Traylor was also a Hall of Fame human being.